Good evening, everybody. Welcome back then to another LFM stream here for round number 7 of the Case King Pro Series. Now, for those of you that may have been left a little bit disappointed about the lack of action here on the channel last week, I can only apologise. I went out of my way to try to take care of the various shenanigans that we've been running into in the comms box over the last few weeks, and in those attempts, in usual Jon fashion, things rather fell apart very quickly and just did not come together. But we are back. Fingers crossed we'll be okay over the course of the next couple of hours or so and can be in for some incredible racing to follow on from the action that we had at the Red Bull Ring last week. Now, to bring you up to speed, that 90-minute round for the halfway point in the season has put things into a very interesting place for the championship, where we have Nicholas Huben leading the way with drop scores taken into account, ahead of George Boothby and a bit of a fan favourite who, once again, already getting support in the chat, Michael Moning, sitting P3 in the standings, very close with Eric Del Fanta behind, and Philip Menard not too far away either. Neither is the likes of Florian Duacop, continuing his fine form as of late. Another pole position, another podium to add to his tally, but the race win went to Tobias Gronewald last week. A fantastic performance from P4 on the grid would make it a German trio on the podium of Gronewald, your championship leader Huben finishing P2, and Florian Duacop in P3, with other championship protagonists sitting inside of the top 10 but being toppled by the 3 German drivers. A very busy round with a lot of incredibly challenging weather for everyone to deal with. But it was those cars that came out on top. And thank you very much for the kind words already in the chat. Even the raid from Kylo once again. And it is good to be back with all of you lovely, lovely people. Cannot wait to get stuck into this incredible evening, because it are going to Spa-Francorchamps. We've been keeping an eye on the pictures in the background. We are over to the land of Belgium once again. And what an incredible circuit this is. It is legendary and has played host to some historic races, both real and virtual, on numerous occasions. And tonight is going to be taking the Pro Series once more, and it is a track that I think is going to throw up a lot of action. There are opportunities to overtake here, but it's a busy circuit. It's a technical one, especially in that middle sector, and depending on the sort of package of car that you have underneath you, can lead to some pretty interesting dynamics throughout the lap as to where the pace ebbs and flows. If you're in the cars like the Porsche, you might start to struggle in the first and final sector, but in that middle sector where the rotation, the handling, the acceleration and braking is key, the likes of Luke Whitehead in the server tonight will be looking to be rapid. Straight line speed, the friend of the Mustangs, even sometimes cars like the Bentleys and the BMWs. First and final sector, where typically the overtakes might be a bit more possible, could be very, very strong for some of those cars. Who knows who might be at the top of the standings this evening, because for those that do not know, we have had 6 different winners in the opening 6 races of the season. So tonight, will we have a 7th different winner, or will we have a repeat winner for the first time? Because, you know, notable names, the likes of George Boothby, the winningest driver in Pro Series history, but despite not having a championship title to his name, also for the first time in a long time, hasn't had a race win so far this season. So he'll be looking to change things with that tonight, and see how he gets on trying to tackle this incredible circuit and see what he can do in that big bad Mustang. It is a mighty car without a shadow of a doubt, and puts on an incredible display of action. It has a fantastic V8 that roars its way around the likes of these circuits, and I'm sure that he's going to be giving it a good go again. Salila, thank you so much for the subscription. Always appreciated. That extra bit of generosity does go a long way indeed to helping all the hidden heroes that make all this action possible, so thank you so much. And for those that do want to give a little bit of extra support to the channel, those subscriptions are always very much appreciated. Of course, you can follow here on the channel. We are closing in to the likes of 3,850 followers for this evening, so who knows, maybe we can hit that milestone before the evening ends. And it'll be very interesting to see if we can do that. And of course, over on the YouTube channel, we have the VODs from these streams, the German streams, and the highlights reels from that side as well, if you want to keep up with all of the good stuff over there as well. So we shall see how our drivers get on for this evening. And I have a feeling that it could be an interesting one. I'd be interested to know what your predictions are for the likes of qualifying this evening. Who has got their places, bets already placed on drivers in the field? And we thinking it could be the likes of any new names. Florian, you have to say, has been in mighty form as of late. And he's certainly be looking to try to keep that string of performances going, of course, over the coming weeks. as he does, start to kind of surmount a little bit of a championship challenge in the halfway point. He's only a few hundred points away from Huben in those top positions as it stands, going for some incredible prizes available here in the Pro Series. So with a bit of a spring in his step, he will certainly be looking to see what he can do and try contesting towards the front of the game. But if we do have dry conditions, not entirely sure how the likes of the Honda will be playing into effect for tonight. It can be a little bit of a back and forth with some of that. So practice underway for these drives. We have a little bit of a look-see into the server as it stands and see how they get themselves dialed in these final few moments. You can see Grant Carreras right now, the driver at the top of those standings in the final moments of this session. But whilst these times sometimes tend to give us a little bit of an indication of who's feeling confident, who's dialed in into the track already, it's very difficult to place as to exactly what this may mean, because some drivers are looking to maybe get their qualifying pace, their setups tuned in, dialed in just a little bit further before we head into the next session. Those might be trying to get their car nicely put in for race trim, because of course that's where the all-important points come from. But Spa is a tricky beast. And the thing is that sometimes, whilst it's a long lap, it's an unforgiving lap at times as well. So being confident in the race, and there are the opportunities to make up places, is also important. Sometimes putting yourself in a good spot that keeps you out of the carnage on the opening lap is just as important, and we know, we've seen it time and time again, that whether it be through Eau Rouge and Radion, whether it be on the climb back up the hill, we've seen it at the final chicane at the bus stop, there are plenty of places where shenanigans can hit at this circuit, and it can be sometimes very, very tricky to keep yourself out of that. So these final few moments of preparation can sometimes be even more vital than drivers necessarily realise at the time. And absolutely right now, the track is green, and for those that do not know, that is not by colour, but is by effectively how rubbered in the circuit is, and as more laps are laid down onto the tarmac, the track will start to get quicker and quicker. Peak conditions being in that optimal scenario, as we have a little bit of a back and forth between one of our good friends, Tuba Carpet, and Mr. Carpet in the chat. He'll be looking to see what he can do in the Bentley tonight. Has shown some fantastic pace at multiple points of the season so far, but has equally had a couple of moments which he's probably a little bit less proud of and happy with, but it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the big bad at Boatley. Maybe less curbs for that car to just outright absorb around here today, but there will be places where that chassis comes into good effect. Piff Paff is likely to be a good example, so Les Com as well. It should pivot through there quite nicely, and the Bentley, of course, the only car within the entire roster of GT3s at these guys' disposal to have a centre of mass that is further forward than it is back, and that does tend to lead into that sort of pendulum-like nature of the rather loose back end, and hence the addition from the British outfit to put on that redonkulous size rear wing and the big old chunky diffuser as well to try to keep the back of that car planted. And just no TC0 in spots where you're using TC. That's, yes, of course, the TC0 meta has also played a small amount of havoc for Mr. Carpet at times this season, as it has done for a lot of other drivers. We are now, of course, in a bit of an era of ACC where running little to no traction control on these GT3 cars is the way to go. Get a little bit more grunt from the engine deployed to those rear tyres. Have to be a bit more careful with the right foot, though, is the consequence, but you can then pivot these cars just a little bit more smoothly through the corners. Track has improved up to fast already, and yes, if you're with us earlier on in the season, you may remember the shenanigans down at the, of course, the incredible Suzuka hairpin, famous in other sports for the likes of Kamui Kobayashi's incredible dives towards that hairpin where he went on to a rather historic podium, but within the Case King Pro Series, rather famous for some Mr. Carpet issues, shall we say, in the early stages of that race. He knows we love him. Here at LFM, so it'll be interesting to see how they all get on tonight. Aidan Walsingham for Veloce will be the first one out on track, ahead of his two teammates, George Boothby and ex-teammate Grantis Carreras. I do keep on forgetting. Of course, Grantis has moved over to the Scuderia Ferrari Academy team now, and has been able to deliver some good pace in that car from time to time. Of course, he is a Case King Pro Series champion from a few seasons ago in the Porsche. Young driver, Lithuanian, absolute weapon behind the wheel, especially sometimes over one lap. Had an incredible season in his championship winning campaign. And taking a bit of time to maybe return to winning ways, but we know what he is capable of delivering. Who knows, maybe Spa will be just a circuit to do that today. Meanwhile, let's go on board with the number 6 car of Aidan Walsingham for the first lap of qualifying, then heading on down towards La Source. Get yourself over to the left-hand side of the circuit, braking around the 80-meter mark. Use the camera corner, clip the curb on the inside, and then get the power down as early as you can. Try not to do a 180 on the exit, straighten the car up, and let that V8 sing as you head up towards that incredibly intimidating but equally thrilling Eau Rouge and Radion sequence. Pop over the first car, be wary of the second, use everything and a little bit more over the crest of Radion, and then down the Kemmel Straight. Incredible speeds here for the likes of the Mustang as he makes his way towards Lake Com. He'll use a bit of that entry curve on the left-hand side. Gets a little bit more rotation, increasing the track width as well. Then stay tight to this inside curve as you then make your way over through into Malmedy. Use all the runoff that you can get away with, but be careful of track limits as you head on down towards Brussels. A little bit of a double apex corner here, kind of similar to Luffield at Silverstone, but then get yourself to the right-hand side of the circuit as soon as you can to open up what I believe is now the Jackie X corner, if I'm not mistaken, after being a no-name for a number of years. Now this is a corner that's got a pretty formidable name. Buon, the fast, long left-hander, try to carry as much momentum and speed as you can. The front tyres screaming by the time you get to the end of this exit. And now in towards Piff Paff again, using the entry curb. A little bit wide of an Aidan I think would have liked, but he gets it tucked in the end. A little bit of curb through the second part on the power once again, using the AstroTurf on the exit, back towards the left-hand side to wind your way through the next couple of corners at the bottom of the circuit through 14 and 15, and now begin the climb back up the hill and be flat out all the way towards the bus stop chicane through turn 16 and in towards Blanchemont. Very, very fast corner, can very quickly go wrong, these GT3 cars. They've got a lot down for, but if it does start to run into some shenanigans, it can go right very quickly. Hard on the brakes then for the chicane. Tuck yourself in to the two apexes, mind the sausage curves, and on the power as early as you can for a good exit out of 19. Aidan going to head towards the timing beam, and it's a time of 2:16.335. Immediately toppled by Carreras in the Ferrari. George Boothby 5 pounds quicker. Steinbrenner for the Low Fuel Motorsport team. Number 15 car does a 2:16.277. Great effort there from the German driver, like Campanella, hitting time. Dean Karpinen down on a 5.6 at the moment. That was Nicholas Huben on a 3.00. Your championship leader. But a great time from Steinbrenner is beaten, though, by Justin Stubenrauch in the number 35 Vitral Esports car. I'm sure that'll have Pranav jumping for joy and asking to stop the count in this session so far. So the Mustang's looking pretty handy. We've got the Aston Martins, Ferraris up there as well. Sam Gaskell in the Lamborghini, currently inside the top 10 on these opening laps. George Boothby finding a 10th on his opening bid as well. And this is certainly looking good for such a long lap. Look at the margins. Top 7, Jack Alexander slotting in to the 7th place spot in the number 22 car, but less than a 10th between the opening 10 cars. Look at that. Luke Whitehead, two-time Pro Series champion, joined by the only other fellow two-time Pro Series champion, Marco Bischoff, 16th and 17th. And the gap between those two drivers, almost 1.5 tenths. But the margins inside of those top 7 drivers is very, very small indeed. Florian continuing his form that goes into P5. I need to have a look at this man, though. George Boothby finding a lot of time and may even be the first driver to head in towards the 2:15s. It is possible here. The track has gone to optimal conditions, so it is getting quicker. Got to be careful with track limits through here. Boothby looking for his first win of the season. Needs just a little bit more to try to kickstart this championship campaign into something that really starts to get the hopes up to maybe close out what's been a series has escaped him time after time. As the opening laps from drivers absolutely rapid, much like Philip Mannar further down the order, half a second up. So George Boothby might jump up in towards provisional pole position. How good does he exit out the bus stop? He's lost a tiny bit. Carreras goes to a 2.07. Boothby a 0.05, but I don't think it's going to be anything compared to the South African of Philip Mannar. He heads towards the line. It's a 15.967 from the number 8 Mustang. And so it's Mustang 1, 2, and Bentley 3 to McCarpinen, just 2,000 behind Boothby, although Eric Del Fanta, he won the season opener, he's P4 in the standings, and the Italian once again looking quick, a 9.15 almost into the 0.8s, and Florian Duacop on the move again, looking to try to make it back-to-back pole positions. He's taken 2 already so far this season, and for 1 lap pace, Florian is on absolute charge. What on earth is this best team name? I can't quite... I'm on a... So for those that don't know, I run these broadcasts on a single monitor, and I kind of have the main broadcast as what I look through as one small OBS window. Jack Alexander, 215.852. And unfortunately, Florian's name is in German. If anyone can translate, as long as it isn't anything that the Twitch chat wouldn't particularly approve of, although I'm sure that Nightbot will strike back at any given moment. But meanwhile, Alexander, great lap from him. Florian continuing the charge. He's got a good run through the final chicane as well. It could be a big lap from the German driver, Florian Duacop, trying to go for glory. And he has done so far once more by 7 thousandths of a second. And whilst he was a 10th covering the top 7, it's now just a 10th of a second covering the top 3. But it is Honda, Mustang, Honda. So how quickly things change. Absolutely incredible stuff. Alexander actually on the move once again in this Mustang. He's found a 10th of a second in the opening sector. And, you are very kind. Well, it's one of those... I wouldn't exactly say it's by choice, but it's something that I've learned to juggle. And I've done it enough. I know that whilst the last few weeks may not suggest that I've done this more than once, we've had a few shenanigans in the comms box, that this is something that I have become somewhat accustomed to. So we can just about get through it as long as everything goes according to plan. Alexander, though, continuing the momentum in towards Piff Paff. He should get a pretty nice tow as well from the Mustang ahead. Not sure if that's Walsingham or George Boothby, but this is a huge lap right now from the Scotsman through 14 and 15. He's 3 tenths up on the Delta. The Mustang up ahead, perhaps not unsurprisingly, gets very much out of the way, not wanting Alexander to go any quicker than he already is. Also, tell you what, Sam Gaskell down in P11 at the moment, he's moving along very well indeed. And look at that, into the 0.7s. Pranav will be absolutely delighted to see his man in the Lamborghini as well. It's been a while since we've seen this car be competitive. Incredible stuff from the British driver, but it might be about to be absolutely shattered because Jack Alexander's going to do a 5.22 in the number 22, and that is a mighty lap time indeed, and that is going to take a lot of effort from some other drivers. Let's see what this man can do. Michael Monig made history just a few rounds ago, the first North American to get to podium, then it was a race win, and now he's a championship contender. His entourage joining us each week. He's into the 15s, and it's P8 into the order as it stands at the moment. Just under 5 minutes of qualifying left to go. Now, usually that'd be good enough for 3, maybe even 4 laps here. Only going to get maybe 2. If you're already out on circuit, you might get 3 if you've got enough fuel. Alexander 0.3 seconds up on Sam Gaskell in the first sector. There's that Mustang straight line speed for you. But there's quite clearly an exchange here because Mustang right now P1 indeed by not an insignificant margin. Next one though down in P5. You've got some other cars. You've got the likes of Philip Nuremberger. It's wild to the next Mustang. Michael Moning after Philip Menard down in P8 ahead of George Boothby. So whilst Jack Alexander definitely showcasing the Mustang's strengths, without a shadow of a doubt, It's not an easy lap to put together because there's some very, very quick drivers indeed that haven't quite managed to get to those dizzying highs. 15.51 in the Alien. Hell is that indeed. Jack Alexander. He's not exactly a regular attendee of the Pro Series, but he does tend to have this habit of that when he is here, he does make an impact. Sometimes maybe not quite in the way that he would be hoping to, but he certainly gives us drama and action. Philip Menard trying to close the gap towards the front of the grid, makes it Mustangs in the front 2 rows. But that is a big gap for Jack Alexander. I do wonder, did the number 22 car actually get some sort of tow down the Kemmel Straight? Because that is a mighty lap time. I mean, he's a tenth and a half quicker than Philip Menard. Now, unless they are running wildly different levels of downforce, it's a big margin. And Philip Menard is no slouch either. As some lovely support once again for several drivers. Got Michael Moning being cheered on. Timo Karppinen supported again in the chat as well. Do give a shout out to the drivers that are willing on. Nicholas Huben, your championship leader, 0.4 of a second up on his time at the moment. That would get him towards the top 10. But these are some rapid times. You need a 15 as it stands at the moment to even be inside the top 10. Luke Whitehead sitting in the 10th place spot in his Porsche. Campanella, final lap time as well. These Visceral Esports drivers going well today in a mixture of different cars. Fantastic stuff to see in the field. And a big thank you for the kind words in the chat. He may be on mute because he hasn't got a headset, but I have seen the kind words indeed, and absolutely cheering on for Michael Moning once again. As we'll see what can Huben do. He is heading towards the line. It's 0.6 up. It's a big lap from Huben, and he is going to get towards the front row in the Aston Martin. That's more like it from the man that's been oh so consistent so far this season. Philip Menard finding time as well. So is Korekis. Look at the deltas inside the top 10. 90 seconds left on the clock for a lot of drivers. They'll only have one more attempt after this. Philip Menard, though, is looking quick. How much time can he find in the final chicane? How brave does he feel? Oh, it's a little bit deep on the brakes. You can see the delta shot up because he carried a bit too much speed. Michael Frey, fantastic effort there from him. In towards P4, moved down to P5. Philip Menard jumps up into P3. Grant Korekis improves as well, but it's still Jack Alexander sitting strong for the next contender. Eric Del Fanta, the Italian driver in this Honda. He's taken a win already this season. And the Hondas, they are looking quick. Florian Duacop up there as well. But it's 0.3 up for Del Fanta. That is looking inside the top 5, but some of these times, certain drivers absolutely driving the wheels off their car. Incredible stuff here. And for a long lap, top 20 covered by less than half a second. That is absolutely incredible. Look at that, the likes of George Boothby, last week's winner, Gronewald, even towards the tail end of the top 20. Luke Whitehead, that's a big lap from the two-time Pro Series champion, but maybe not quite as big as the lap coming from Eric Del Fanta right now. It's going to be very close, and he has got into the 0.4s. An incredible one from the number 11 car, and all of a sudden it's game on between himself, Jack Alexander, Eric Del Fanta has laid down the gauntlet. Nicholas Huben, though, on his final lap of this session, he's found 2/10. He needs just a little bit more if he wants to go into provisional pole. And there we go. Michael Frey won't start any higher than P10. Michael Moning down in P13 at best. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of disappointments from some of his fans in the chat. There are several cars still improving as well. Alexander going purple at the beginning of his lap. Nicholas Huben, though, what can he do? That was a smart and tidy exit. It's going to be very close. I think he might miss out by a smidge. He doesn't. He finds enough by 25 thousandths of a second, and it's game on to the end. So, Jack Alexander is done. Jack Alexander is done. And so it is going to be Eric Del Fanta to be likely the only one to challenge for pole position here. He's a little bit up and down in his delta. Philip Menard coming into the final sector as well. So is Grantis Korekis just ahead of him. Several drivers finding small amounts of time, but has Nicholas Huben done enough? Philip Manar has an absolutely mighty final chicane. Carreras can't quite do it, but Philip Manar can by 100th of a second. He goes up into provisional pole. But what about some of these other lap times? The likes of Justin Stubenrauch, don't count him out. He's 2/10 up in the middle sector. He's got a long way on this lap to go. That would get him in towards the 0.5s. Eric Del Fanta heading in towards the final sector now. Climbing the hill. Gronewald from nowhere. Last week's race winner finds a lap time at the death of it to absolutely chuck himself up about 16 positions and goes up into provisional pole. Luke Whitehead has found a huge amount in the final chicane. The two-time Pro Series champion. We know how good he can be over one lap. It's only going to be good enough for P7 though, just behind his Vlotche Esports teammate. But look at this from Stubenrauch. He's found 0.3 of a second. The Mustang is absolutely flying. Del Fanta is flying as well. Can he do anything about pole position? He can't. And so it's all eyes onto the number 35 car. Into the final chicane he goes. Could this be one of the biggest upsets in qualifying history of the Pro Series? It's been a huge chicane from Stubenrauch. He might do this. He does do this, and he shatters the time from Gronewald. Justin Stubenrauch take a bow. A 2:15.372. An absolutely mighty lap there from the Bright Pig Mustang. You wouldn't miss it from a million miles away. But Stubenrauch, bearing in mind that the number plate of these cars corresponds to drivers' relative elo in the server. So a high-numbered plate car indicates that driver is either less experienced on the LFM platform or, has had an average pace that hasn't allowed them to rank up to the dizzying heights where we see the likes of George Boothby, the number one man in the server and on the platform. And so the number 35 car in a server of 39 drivers has gone to pole position ahead of some very big names. And I'll tell you what, Stubenrauch, I imagine, along with Pranav, is going to be absolutely overjoyed by that qualifying session. What an absolutely mighty results for Visceral Esports and the German driver, who absolutely strung together an exceptional lap there. That was absolutely mighty from Justin. And now, once you get a qualifying like that, regardless of what expectation you went into the race with, I don't know where Stubenrauch's mind would have been. He might have been thinking, could he go for top 10? Could he maybe sneak a podium? But once you stick it on pole, once you go ahead of the likes of Gronewald, Manar, Huben, Del Fanta, Alexander, Boothby, Walsingham, Whitehead, and Carreras, that's the rest of your top 10. Those are the drivers that Stubenrauch has beaten. You can't help but then start to think maybe that race win is possible. And I tell you what, we've had 6 different race winners so far this season. Who knows? Maybe we will have 7. What's an absolutely exceptional qualifying that we had there. And Justin Stubenrauch, if I'm not mistaken, a maiden pole position in the Case King Pro Series. He will be delighted with that one, without a shadow of a doubt. We will go for our grid walk with our new wonderful cameras in place as well. Justin Stubenrauch does make it a Mustang, leading the way after that incredible qualifying session ahead of Tobias Gronewald, last week's race winner. He started P4 last time. This time it's P2. So there's nothing to say that he can't win today, but Stubenrauch was springing his step, I'm sure, will not give this one up easily. Philip Manar and Nicholas Huben make up the second row of the grid ahead of Eric Del Fanta in P5. Jack Alexander, who looked like he had laid down the benchmark for pole position, dropped down to P6 in the end. That is absolutely incredible. Great qualifying from him, but it just goes to show the level of pace that these guys are working with. Boothby and Walsingham, Vlotche make up the fourth row of the grid, with Luke Whitehead, the two-time Pro Series champion, starting P9, just up ahead of his old teammate, Grant Carreras. P10 for the Scuderia Ferrari Esports team. One of the favourites for the evening, Mr. Carpet, Timo Karppinen, starts in P11 for the boat lead. Let's see, that car could be a rocket ship in a straight line. Who knows? Fabrizio Campanella, great stuff from him for the next of the Visceral Esports cars. These Lamborghinis were a little bit quicker than we have seen in a while, so that is fantastic news for him and his teammate Sam Gaskell, not too far behind. Danilo Panaforov in P13 ahead of Jan-Philipp Nuremberger to start P14. Here is Sam Gaskell. He would have been hoping for maybe a little bit more. He was P7 at one point, but those times in the end dropped him down the order, as did this man, Florian Duakop. He's taken multiple pole positions so far this season. Looked like it could be another one today, but it will be a P16 start for the two-time race winner. Michael Frey also made a late appearance of a top 10, but he got shuffled down as well. He will start ahead of the other two-time champion, Marco Bischoff, in P18. Marco Lomi starts in 19th position ahead of Sasha Vassner, rounding out your top 20. Vadim Barrier, 21st position, and I'll tell you what, there'll be some sighs of frustration here. Michael Moning, that wonderful liveried Samantha Tan Racing Esports car, down in 22nd position. But who knows, maybe he can make some good progress through the field. Spa has definitely thrown up shenanigans in the past. Sakari Leitinen starts in 24th position behind Vlad Kolosov in 23rd place. And then be Lois Rainier. And then into the 13th row of the grid. Alongside him will be Noah Eder, the next of those Team Nitro cars. Leon Byrne starts in 27th place. Fantastic pace at certain circuits. Suzuka comes to mind. They're struggling a little bit here to dial the car in at Spa. 28th position goes to Nils Steinbrenner. And then Marco Schada will line up 29th ahead of Lorenzo Magnani to round out the top 30 in that Gladius competition Aston Martin. Samir Foch, distinctive livery. First time we've been able to really see it, maybe the last. I joke. It's certainly... It's unique, is certainly something that could be used to describe that one. Carl Natur starts in 32nd place ahead of Maximilian Schwanker, with Henrik Gamble in 34th position in the BMW. And he will start ahead of Martin Lawrenson next, and last, I believe, of our Boatleys in the field. Luke Addison in that very metallic blue number 33 Ford Mustang. Fabio Steyer will start in 37th position, and then he will start just in front of the last Porsche on the grid from Josef Kufel. And then last but certainly not least, Max Meinecker in 39th position in those next of those Mustangs. So incredible stuff from qualifying. Justin Stubenranch, honestly, I cannot explain how much of, no disrespect to Justin Stubenranch, but, he is not exactly a driver that in previous form you would have had your money on to deliver a lap of that quality. But he absolutely aced that, and I tell you what, he is going to be buzzing from that, and I'm sure he is going to be giving it his absolute all to convert that into a maiden race win. He's got Pranav cheering him on in the chat as well, so he'll have that as a bit of extra momentum as we get some interesting and less favourable statistics. Kylo, our resident statistician, as well as raiding the channel for this evening, also bring you all of the facts and figures you could possibly dream of. As most DNS in the series, that award unfortunately goes to Sasha Vasta with a whopping 17. So Sasha will be hoping not to make that into an 18th one this evening, as drivers rounding their way out through the final corners. Now, they won't quite get going out of the bus stop, although that is a start-finish line, to try to minimise some of the chaos that can take place at La Source. They will get going on the exit of La Source and the run up into Eau Rouge and Radion. But in these final few moments, I just want to hear from you guys in the chat. Who is your money on to win this race? Do you think Stubenrauch is going to be able to convert that incredible qualifying session into a maiden race victory in the Case King Pro Series? Or do you think it will go the way of someone else? We think we'll have our first repeat winner of the season. It's so difficult to tell. I have to, you know, I can't be biased. I can't be in the commentary box. I just love the racing action. But I have to say, Justin Stubenrauch, if he was able to deliver a performance like that in qualifying, to me, there is nothing to say that combined with the Mustang, it's not going to be an easy car to overtake by any stretch of the imagination. There should be no reason, if he can't convert that pace into race-winning position. So we'll be all eyes on the German drivers. They round their way out of the first turn, waiting for the lights to go out here for the 7th round of the Case King Pro Series. Will we have history made once again with a new winner in this championship? We're about to find out. His green lights away. It's a good launch from Tobias Grunewald as the Mustang can't quite squeeze towards that apex, but he holds on to the lead for the opening couple of corners. But then here comes a drag race, and they all go into single file. Stubenrauch leading the way. Tobias Grunewald tucked in. Philip Mannar and Nicholas Huber working together NASCAR style, but the Mustang straight line speed has got it all under control. So Stubenrauch will lead. Mannar trying to take one, maybe even two in towards Lake Cobb. Will be squeezed by Grunewald. Dream start for Stubenrauch as he watches the two battle side by side behind, but Philip Mannar does go through. So it's Mustang 1 and 2. Honda on the podium right now with Tobias Grunewald and Nicholas Huber, the man that finished behind him last week at the Red Bull Ring. He's got a championship to think about, remember. He sits in P4. Chaos as well for other protagonists as they head in towards Jackie's corner for the first time. George Boothby right on the gearbox of Eric Delfanter, as that is Aidan Walsingham and Grant Korekas battling side by side in the background as we head in towards Bourne. But it's Walsingham that has got the advantage over his ex-teammate, and it may even be advantage to Luke Whitehead. How brave does he feel heading in towards Piff Path? Team of Confident trying to make a move up the inside, can't make it stick. In actual fact, has Campanella to worry about in the second half of the corner. But Confident, he does hold on. Florian Duakop, good start from him. 3 positions for Florian Duakop. So a qualifying that he wouldn't have been particularly happy about, but already starting to move his way forward. But it's Stubenrauch that leads by 1.1 seconds ahead of Philip Mannar. Grunewald P3, and then very closely hunted down. There's a yellow flag further down the order. That is Magnani, who's already gone back to pit lane, but I can't look at that for too long because a battle for the podium positions is on. Nicholas Huber going up the inside in towards the bus stop chicane. Absolutely spots it perfectly, and George Boothby trying to do the same thing around the outside of Eric Delfanter. A little bit of a squeeze on the exit. We go on board with Aidan Walsingham watching 2 cars that are battling inside of the championship positions. Into last source they go. Boothby trying to go around the outside, and he'll have to wait for the run through Eau Rouge Radion if he wants to make that one stick. A lot of action further down the order as well. It's going to be chaos as we head in towards Lake Cobb for the second time. As you see Vassner and Nuremberg are side by side. It will be just about Sasha Vassner that comes out on top there. But we look towards the pointy end of the field. Who's got the legs down the straight? Look at Alexander closing at a rate of knots and a half. And George Boothby as well is going to get the move done just behind. He's past Delfanter. What about Aidan Walsingham? He fancied to move up the inside as well. Can he make it stick? He can't, as Korekas watches on just behind. They head through in towards Malmedy. Walsingham has to go into single file. A little bit of the defensive line to the inside line. Korekas, middle of the road defending. It can't go anywhere to make a move happen there. Meanwhile, you see further down, that's Bischoff now, trying to go around the outside of Nuremberg, are almost tagged from Sam Gaskell in the Visceral Esports Lamborghini. Michael Moning bringing up the rear of this fight as well. He's up 3 places in towards 19th position. Celebrations, I'm sure, in the chat. As biggest gainer so far, Neil Steinbrenner, Sasha Vassner, they're both up 5 places. Florian Duakop, impressive start for him as well. Michael Moning, though, using that Mustang speed advantage. You can see how much he was gaining even on the run down towards Lake On. We will go on board the rear diffuser of the screaming V10 of Sam Gattel's Lamborghini, the Raging Bull. I imagine that Mustang is just absolutely going to devour this gap on the run up the hill. It starts at 0.3 of a second. You see Michael Moning tactically pulling out the slipstream there. He doesn't want to gain positions too quickly. Sakari Leitonen has an instant further down the order, but as we see the gap closing, the ST Racing Esports car is going to have to head towards the outside line. How brave does he feel on the brakes? He's trying to make it happen. He's going to run out of road though. Can't do it. As meanwhile, that's Vanteen Barrier scrapping away with Michael Frey, who has managed to go on through. Marco Bischoff, Narita bringing up the rear here. They're going to be almost 3 wide down in towards turn 1, ducking, diving, trying to find a position, an opportunity somewhere. The Frenchman comes out on top. And then it's going to be side by side between the 2 cars behind him. But then the Mustang of Narita has enough of a straight line speed advantage to pull away. And it'll be the drag race all once again. How do they fare at the pointy end of the order? Stuart Roush still leading by a second. It's almost a second again down to Philip Menard. George Boothby, enough straight line speed to keep back the attack from Eric Delfanta. That is both a blessing and the curse, depending on which side of the fence you're on, for the Mustang. Marco Bischoff unable to do anything about Nuremberger, trying to go for the switchback, can't make it stick. Meanwhile, Norida trying to find a way past Vanteen Barrier, but unable to do so. As you see, this 5-way train as they fly on through in towards Brussels. Apparently, Sam Gaskell not phased at all by Michael Moning. We feel like we've got a collide coming together of fan groups here. We've got Pranav cheering on his boys for Visceral Esports, and then the Michael Moning support party as well, as Fabio Steyer and Samir Foch have had some shenanigans further down the grid, and I think Samir may have just phased out of existence with that one as well. What has happened here for the number 28 car? So you see, there's Samit just up ahead, was side by side with Martin Lawrence, and then they go through in towards Brussels. Is there going to be attack on the exit? And there is indeed, and then there's a follow-up contact, and that sends a pair of them round. And I mean, we'll see what the stewards have to say, but I think, unfortunately, from what I could tell, that did look to me like that was, I mean, it's difficult that you could argue it in 2 different ways. Meanwhile, oh, we can't argue that. That's way too deep in towards the bus stop chicane. Oh, and it's awkward as well. Jack Alexander trying to go for the move into P4. Gets it all wrong under the brakes. And then has to drop back. And he's now got George Boothby locking onto his heels as well. Meanwhile, first lap of the race from Philip Menard. But there is a 1.3 second gap between himself and Justin Stubenraut. So work to be done if he does want to challenge for the race lead. But Samir, it did look like he closed a bit onto the Porsche that was sitting on that inside line. But, you know, equally he'll say, well, he was enough in front to not have to warrant giving that car room. We'll see what the stewards say, but felt like it was certainly an incident that could have been relatively easily avoided. Meanwhile, several cars on the battle and the charge once again. Korekis being one of them, but the Ferrari just unable to keep up the momentum towards the top of the hill. Meanwhile, Michael Moning going a little bit deep in towards Lake Cobby, just about gets his stop. Meanwhile, it's Nuremberger and Marco Bischoff battling side by side. So Michael Moning has gone from attacking to defending to attacking once again, chopping and changing. GT3 racing at its finest. Gap has opened by the 2-time Pro Series champion. They'll be side by side in towards Jackie Eats corner. Can he get the over and under? Is not going to be able to do so. Just have to wait for an opportunity. Nuremberger, the Aston Martin just seems like has a little bit too much straight line speed to allow the Mustang to get a good run to head on by. But the number 14 car that took victory at the Hungaroring just a few weeks ago, he is in this championship fight, so currently P18. He'll want more from this. Norida and Steinbrenner gaining 6 positions apiece. 4 for Michael Moning and 3 for Florian Duicot, now up into P13. The man has taken, I believe, 3 pole positions so far this season. But it's Stubenraut that leads from Menard, Huben, Gronewald, Alexander, Boothby, Delfanta, Walsingham, Korekis, Whitehead, and then Karppinen, who's getting a little bit cozy behind the rear diffuser of the Porsche. Can the Bowley go for a big move around the outside? It's not going to be outbreaking Luke Whitehead in a Porsche any day now, but he gave it a good go. But they'll size up an opportunity elsewhere. What about Steinbrenner versus Valentin Barrier? This one looks like it could be a little bit more on side by side on the exits, but surely Mustang torque and power on the run in towards turn 1. He may even be able to get towards the inside line before they get to the braking zone. He covers it off, and Valentin will slot into positions. Just 10 minutes down so far on this race. 50 minutes of action to go. And if you are enjoying the incredible scenes here at the Case King Pro Series, do consider giving the channel a follow, because it's what the racing is like every single time that these cars hit the track. It is crazy, crazy action with some of the very best that GT3 racing has to offer. Going for some incredible prizes as well. Here we go. The Mustangs, they're 3 wide. Surely not in towards Lakeoff. Michael Moning has to back out that one. As Marco Bischoff again trying to apply the pressure to an unflappable Nuremberger in the Aston Martin. And he holds on to position. Marco Bischoff again thought about a move towards the inside line, but just could not make it stick. Meanwhile, Valentin Barrier managed to make his way back past the Mustang of Neil Steinbrenner. So that battle has not ended. Neither has the one between Carl Set and Leon Burns. A little chopping and changing of positions here further down the order as well as they continue on. Maximilian Schwanker going a little bit wide. Down the inside goes Josef Kufel, up 6 positions now. Tricky to go side by side here in towards Pouon. Might have to be careful, because that Mustang will start to pick up speed again on the run down the hill in towards Piff Path. Schwanker looking for an opportunity, but it is covered off by the Porsche of Kufel, and they will continue on as they were. Great stuff here in the Case King Pro Series, delivering the action in absolute buckets. And I'll tell you what, Tobias Grunewald, despite starting on the front row, does not seem to have the best of race pace right now, because here come Alexander and Boothby. These Mustangs looking very, very quick in race trim conditions. What has happened to Teemu Karppinen? He's lost 1, maybe even 2 positions. Florin Duakov is going to make his way by as well. See if we can try to catch what happened here for the Bentley driver. Now, he missed it just a little bit too late. He must have gone deep into the corner. He's been tagged in some form or another, lost momentum, and it's game on immediately after we head back to live pictures. So, here comes Alexander. He tried to make this move stick a couple of laps ago, but look at the charge from the Mustang in the slipstream. Grunewald, does he go defensive? He's going to have to. Alexander sending him outside. Yellow flag for Michael Moning further down the order. That'll be a cry of despair in the chat. We'll try to catch up with that one in just a moment, as Alexander unable to make his way by, and Michael Moning is continuing to tumble down the order. It's to the pit lane for the American driver. What has happened here for the number 14 car? Has there been contact through Eau Rouge and Radion? He can see he's made his way past Michael Bischoff here. Oh, there is a tag. There is a tag indeed, and it's a huge, huge impact in towards the barrier. And that was a car that I don't even imagine me pointing in a straight line any day of the week. Now, admittedly, it wasn't 100% clear from my angle. Michael Moning could have potentially lost it on his own, but you know, these Mustangs, they're looking pretty stable through there, so unfortunately I've got a horrible feeling it was contact there. Did I call the medical helicopter, John? He's on speed dial, trust me, for this circuit, so I'll be sending him Michael's way, but that is unfortunately a very disappointing end for Michael Moning's charge up the order, and for a man that's already got a 0 score to his tally for the season. That will be both of his drop scores basically done and dusted. That he won't be able to benefit from anything else beyond that. Oh, there was almost contact there between Grunewald and Alexander, who's trying around the outside again. There's a little bit of contact. George Boothby, how does he fare in this fight? He's usually so good in these situations, and he may have an opportunity here. There could even be a double overtake, because we can see Grunewald, he is lacking in a straight line by the looks of it. This Mustang just builds such a huge amount of momentum through Eau Rouge and Radion, and then down towards the end of the Kemmel Straight. We head through to see the gap up ahead already starting to close. Yeah, you see that Mustang, it looks pretty calm and stable, even in dirty air. So I think there must have been some form of contact. We'll see what the stewards make of that one. Alexander, that gap goes from 7 tenths all the way down to just a single tenth. He's going to try around the outside again. Grunewald gives him a squeeze on the entry to the braking zone. Just about holds on for the time being. But look at this. P5 to P8, all within a single second. Absolutely extraordinary stuff between these cars. Boothby trying to find a way through. Won't find it just yet. Meanwhile, Steinbrenner and Barry are battling, not for the first time. It looks like Steinbrenner might get the job done, although down the inside he gave a lot of space to the Frenchman, then says thank you very much, and in the McLaren goes back on through in towards what will be P20. Steinbrenner up 7 positions so far. So is Joseph Kufel now further down the order. Noah Eder is up 8 places. And we will check in on stewards' inquiries very shortly, see has anything come to fruition just yet. There's a lot of no further actions. We had a warning, had a 10-second time penalty for the number 19 car. That is for Marco Lomi for causing a collision on the first lap. A 10-second time penalty for the number 38 car. That belongs to Max Meinecker, who I think is already in the pits. A 5-second time penalty for the number 25 for causing a collision on lap 2, as meanwhile things are about to get very, very busy here for Delphanta. Walsingham trying to go around the outside, and Grant Carreras into the mix as well. It's a big dive around the outside, but it's well calculated from the Veloce Mustang. They'll be side by side on the exit, but you'd have to think it's game on here, as also in the background Luke Whitehead and Fabrizio Campanella fighting away as well. The Porsche driver struggling with straight line speed, and has got Campanella trying to take that P10 spot. They are 3 wide in towards La Source. How did they make it through there? Delphanta somehow comes out on top of all of that. Carreras immediately slots into a slipstream, but Walsingham does lose out. Meanwhile, Campanella and Luke Whitehead side by side. Luke Whitehead's never backing out of that one. You've got to try harder than that, Fabrizio, as they now head on through. Radion into the slipstream, the Lamborghini goes, and he's tucked under the rear diffuser. Surely, oh, you can see Luke Whitehead so tactical with the placement of his car, trying to scrub off any bit of momentum he can. Can he hold off? In towards Lake On they go, side by side. You can see Carreras and Delphanta scrapping up ahead as well. Luke Whitehead comes out on top of this battle. How does Delphanta fare against the Lithuanian? Carreras, oh, Walsingham, you can't find a gap there, my friend. Has to back off now. In towards Brussels they go. Delphanta a little bit deep on the brakes, still gives an opportunity to Carreras. They're side by side. In towards Jackie Hicks corner, and he's squeezed towards the outside line. Does that give Walsingham a run? In towards Broad, he's trying it. He's found gaps where there aren't gaps before, so I don't see why he won't try again. In towards the left-hander they go. But it will be Carreras that holds on to it this time around, although the over and under cuts back for the Mustang. It's so quick in a straight line, and Carreras fighting for everything that he is worth. It's all the way around the outside for the British driver. It turns to the inside, and this is allowing Delphanta to just run away a little bit through the double right. They will go. Walsingham still trying to pull this one off. They are giving it absolutely everything they've got. They've been teammates in the past. Look at this. It's bringing in the other trainers behind them, and the squeeze from Grant and Carreras. Just a little bit of a touch, but the Mustang will start to come back, and the two Veloce cars are going to work together, because Luke Whitehead will try to send his teammate forward. He's got to be careful how he does it here, and he's got to be careful about the likes of Campanella behind. They're absolutely head to toe in towards the next sequence. Carreras to the inside. Walsingham's even further to the inside. Timu Carpenter's trying to take all of them around the outside. He's taken one on Duacom. Great move, although he's compromised a little bit on the exit. Incredible stuff. Battling between these two. Further up the order, very close with Grunewald Alexander. Also Philip Menard now within half a second of Justin Stewart round. So we've got battles everywhere that we look. Carpenter's around at the hairpin. He's managed to keep it to a half spin. He'll be side side by side with Panaforov in towards Eau Rouge and Radion, but the drag races will come in a series of blows, and we'll see what they each result in. Philip Menard trying to close the gap to the poleman, Justin Stubenrouts. Menard has won races in the past. He's going to try going for one again, but he can't get to the inside this time around, as Stubenrouts unflapped on this occasion. Alexander unable to do anything about Gronewald, as we see Luke Whitehead tag teaming with his teammate Ada Walsingham. Actual fact, maybe sending a bit further into a braking zone than he would have ordinarily wished for. Marco Bischoff once again trying to get past Nuremberger. Timo Karpinen immediately trying to return back into the fights in the top 10. Going for the over and under through Malmedy. He's got Noah Reader on his gearbox as well. In towards Brussels, they'll go 2 by 2. Oh, there's contact there. Carpenter just about squeezes through. Bischoff almost into the inside wall. 2 abreast with Noah Reader and Sam Gaskell as they head into Jackie's corner. It's the other Mustang that comes out on top of that one. But absolute chaos here in the mid-pack. Everywhere you look, there is drama. I told you Spa was going to be a good one. The Case King Pro Series delivering the action in bucket loads like we usually would. But Karpinen, after that mishap towards Toe 1, uses that Bentley suspension to take all of the lawn of the Belgian countryside and manages to just about sneak his way through. Might have even got away with very little damage as well, because I think he was pretty much side on contact. But the battle for the lead is on. The battle for the 4th place position, and all of these outside of the top 10 kicking off as well. Incredible stuff here. We're only a third of the way through this race, and you know what that means? It's pit window time. Who is going to go for undercut? Surely not this early on in the race. Gronewald under pressure from Alexander and Boothby. They will continue on as they were. Walsingham back into the rear diffuser of Karekas, trying to see if he can do anything about the Ferrari in front, as well as now Panaforov, who has reclaimed his way up to P13. Sasha Vaston behind, up 6 positions. What is going on back here as well? No Reader now 9 positions gained for the Team Nitro car. We've got some other shenanigans across the start-finish line as well between Koltsov and the Terra. It's difficult to choose a place to look between these cars. We'll see how they fare on this next drag race. Looks to me like Gronewald has got enough of a margin. I thought Stubenrouts had enough of a margin, but Philip Menard was starting to close in like an absolute freight train. And you see that, Nicholas Huben, he's not far away either. Really not far away. If these two start to scrap, it will be game on as a 3-way fight for the race lead. And it could also all come down to strategy. Those pit laps can be pivotal, as Marco Lomi tried going down the inside of Marco Bischoff on his charge back through the field, unable to make it stick. Carpenter swaps his way back around with Vladislav Koltsov for 26th position as they continue to charge on in this race. Incredible scenes so far. We are just 4 followers away from that 3,850 milestone. A big thank you to those that have followed during the stream so far. And if you have been enjoying the incredible crazy scenes that this race is putting on, these guys, they put on an amazing show. It would be absolutely wonderful to have your support and give it a follow to the channel as we get ever nearer to what seemingly at one point felt like an insurmountable 4,000 follower mark. The fact that that is even in the realms of possibility is incredible. But I'll tell you what is also incredible is the rate of knots, and Menard is closing in towards your race leader. Look at this. This is absolutely on now. Stubenrouts surely will have to defend here. Philip Menard heading towards the outside line. He'll try to break late. He's got to be patient here. He's got time to try to size up the move, but if he causes too much battling, Nicholas Huben, your championship leader, will be there to pounce. The yellow flag for Valentin Barry, who's in the wall, down through Blanchimont. We'll try to see if we can quickly grab a replay of this before it all kicks off in the drag race down the Kemmel Straight. What has happened here for the Frenchman? Oh, why have I lost connection to the server? That's really not what I wanted at this given moment. There we go. We're back. Oh dear. Oh, that's really not gone planned at all. And, well, yeah, that is certainly a bit of an unusual one there. And so they will continue on as they were. We are back in the server as Valentin Barrier is going to have to head in towards pit lane. And that is really real 32 seconds worth of damage for Valentine Barrier. As meanwhile, that seems that my overlays had a little bit of a moment. And I can't regain control of the cameras, which is a rather pivotal moment of this race. Meanwhile, we will continue to watch on with Valentine Barrier making his way around the circuit. We may have to do a little bit of an overlay restart here. And fingers crossed we can get going underway in just a short moment if we are lucky. And let's see what we can do about all of this. See if we can make our way back on in to this, please. We'll keep an eye on seeing how Fancy's pit stop goes, but as much as we love him, it's not really quite what I was aiming for right now. Oh dear, this is really not what I wanted or needed. So I think what we will do is we will have to take a little short delay here. And I shall try to get ourselves back into the server and bring everything back online. So frustrating stuff here, and apologies for the slight break. We will try to go back to live pictures as quick as we can, because that battle for the race lead was hotting up absolutely incredibly between Philip Menard and Justin Sumenrouch, with Nicholas Human chiming in to the party of all of that as well. So we'll see how he gets on for the remainder of this race, because it is certainly looking like an interesting one. I have to say, with the momentum it looks like Philip is building up as it stands, you would certainly have to think that he is in prime position to go for the race win if he can keep that up in the latter stages of this race. But who knows, as we look to make our way back into the server, just to check for everybody. If someone could just give me a little bit of a hello or something in the chat, just to make sure that it's not my internet that has collapsed. I don't think it is on this occasion. I know we've had our moments in recent weeks, but I think this time around it is actually something different that is causing grief this time around. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be back underway very shortly. And thank you very much to those in chat. We will be in the server, hopefully, very imminently, and we can see exactly what is taking place for the battle for the lead. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the overcut, undercut strategies as well. Who looks to try to do things with strategy. We've seen the likes of George Boothby go for some very ambitious overcuts in the past. I can tell you that Sumenrouch has held on to the race lead for the time being. And fingers crossed, in just a moment, if we are lucky, which I think we are, that we can make our way back in and get back to said live pictures, which we can. And if we make our way back across, the battle for the lead is on, and we are back with it once more. So, Justin Sumenrouch, Philip Menard, and Nicholas Huben all within 7/10 of a second of each other. Things have not changed, thankfully, since we were last here, but it may be about to, because Nicholas Huben, you can see, he's starting to really turn up the wick now in the Aston Martin. Trying to find opportunities. Menard is in. Menard is in for that undercut strategy. Did wonder if he would look to do. We've also had Steinbrenner, Gamble, Addison also come in as well. So we've had a few drivers, and Jack Alexander inside of a top 10 as well has decided to go for that undercut. So a few drivers trying to see if that will allow them to move up the order into a better position. But it's so difficult sometimes. It is so tricky. We see now Aidan Walsingham trying to move his way up past Grantus Korekis. This trio of drivers, they were all previously teammates together. And now Walsingham trying to close in the slipstream. That 296 has a surprisingly decent amount of straight line speed. He cannot make his way past the Ferrari. So the Mustang just not closing in at the rate of knots that he would have wanted. As now Philip Menard making his way out of pit lane. It's a long old pit lane here. For any of those that have been unfortunate enough to get a stop-go 30 or a drive-through here at Spa, you know just how painful that is. The pit lane is hideously long, wrapping around both from start-finish straight and on the climb up towards the hill, as we have hit 3,850 followers here on the English Twitch channel. Thank you everybody so much for the support, your patience as well. I think we may have to refrain from any more replays for the remainder of this stream, because that does seem to be sometimes the sticking point for these explosions, so we will stay as we are for the time being. But big thank you to all of those joining. I hope you are enjoying this incredible evening of action as much as I am. The Pro Series delivering all of the best racing you could possibly dream of, as it so often does. Will any of this lead group come into the pits following that undercut attempt from Philip Manart? Sometimes you just have to react to it. Sometimes it can be too early, though. And Stuben Rauch is in. So is Huben. So they have decided that they don't want the undercut from Manart to be all too powerful. Huben absolutely glued to the rear of Stuben Rauch on the entry into the pit lane, as Gronewald is in as well. Karekas is in. Boothby will head into the net lead of the race for the time being. And be interested to see how much of an overcut does he look to go for. He sometimes has pulled off some immensely ambitious overcut strategies. Meanwhile, Martin Lawrence trying to go all the way around the outside in the Bentley. All a little bit for nothing, though, because Josef Kupel, one of our biggest movers on the grid, has dived into pit lane as we hit the halfway mark of this race.
We are halfway through.
As announced by the engineer in perfect timing. Thank you very much, good sir. Meanwhile, you see Walsingham and Luke Wyatt. Wyatt has actually made his way past his teammate of Aidan Walsingham. I'm not quite sure how that came to be. Campanella and Florian Duakop in hot pursuit now as well. So I have to see how they fare over the remainder of the stint. But Philip Manart then, here he is, climbing his way up through Blanchemont. Clear air as you like. And he won't know if his undercut has worked up until he comes flying through Eau Rouge and Radion. I would have to imagine Stuben Rauch and Huben will emerge further up the Kemmel Straight, and it will be this huge overspeed from the Mustang of all cars as well. The 255 competition car rounding his way through the bus stop chicane, as we will look to go on board the front splitter of Philip Manart. The South African has gone for the undercut strategy, trying to see if he can gain on those around him. You can see such a long pit stop here, 107 seconds in pit lane for these cars. But meanwhile then, Philip Manart rounding up through the crest of Radion. He makes his way there. Stuben Rauch, it's not even close. Stuben Rauch has lost the lead. And where is Nicholas Huben? Nicholas Huben's ahead. What a Stuben Rauch! Stuben Rauch must have missed his pit box or something, but Nicholas Huben has got the fresher tyres, he's done the overcut, and he's made his way in towards the race lead. So the Aston Martin and Nicholas Huben leads ahead of Philip Manart, who finds himself in a complete inversion of positions of how they were just a few minutes ago. And Stuben Rauch's dream of converting a maiden pole into a maiden victory possibly take a bit of a hit, because he's got some work to do. And it did look like, whilst he was quick in the early stint, look at that, it's not an insignificant gap at all. 2 seconds to Philip Manart, 3 seconds to Nicholas Huben. Surely that must be from a missed pit box or something along those lines. But for Justin Stuben Rauch, disappointment there. But Philip Manart and Nicholas Huben. Huben did look like he had the greatest of pace at the very beginning of the race. And so Philip Manart, he may start applying the pressure to this Aston Martin ahead of him. And that may start to allow Stuben Rauch to reel in these two cars ahead. If he can start to drive like a man possessed like he was in qualifying, who knows what could be on here. Meanwhile, Philip Manart, this is the first time that we've seen the Mustang up behind the Aston Martin in this group of 3. And it again looks like the straight line speed advantage is in favour of the Mustang. But he's not gaining at the rate of knots we've seen on other cars. So this is going to be a proper fight between these two. Huben, a little bit of a slide in towards the bus stop chicane. Meanwhile, Jack Alexander has because he pitted very early on, I believe, with Philip Menard as well. That undercut strategy making his way towards Tobias Grunewald. Grant correct as 4.5 seconds down behind. So whereabouts is the likes of George Boothby? So George Boothby will be emerging out of pit lane in just a moment. There we go, wheels down for him. But this is the battle for the race lead. 26 minutes left on the clock. There's Subban in the background. He'll be hoping for fireworks between these two, and the fireworks may arrive sooner rather than later, because Menard, it's 2/10, it's 1/10 as they head down to the end of Kemmel Straight, and Nicholas Huben is not defending that inside line, and Philip Menard may have a free invitation here, and he does. He just slides his way on through. Huben is not fighting for this one. Is he thinking about the bigger picture of the championship? There's only 40 points difference between P1 and P2, but Philip Menard, bearing in mind, he is P5 in the championship, so he'll take everything that he can get at this point. Meanwhile, George Boothby has overcut Alexander and Grunewald. Alexander has managed to make his way past the German driver and last week's race winner, but George Boothby has made his way up into net P4, and he has the freshest tyres of all of them. And he's only 4 seconds behind Stubenrauch. Boothby may be able to bring out some miracles here and climb his way back towards P3. Who knows? Sam Gaskell versus Daniil Panafurov as well, further down the order, currently in P18 at the moment. More cars coming in. Karppinen, Campanella, Sakari Leighton staying out very late in the race. I don't think it's the first time that he has attempted to pull off a strategy like that. But Philip Menard then goes into the lead. Stubenrauch has managed to gain a few valuable tenths, but he's got work to do if he wants to try to get back into the lead of his race. He has one lap fresher tyres than Huben, but it is equal pace in terms of tyre compounds with Philip Menard, and Menard did look like the quicker of the two Mustangs over the course of the stint. Nuremberger has a 15-second time penalty. We'll try to keep up with the penalties here. So we've had a 5-second penalty for the number 26 car for an incident in this race, and I can't see who that belongs to. They may have left the server. Then we have a 5-second time penalty for the 38, and that car belongs to that is Max Meinecker once again. A drive-through penalty for the number 3 car, and that, I think, that is Marco Bischoff. So I think there must have been contact there with Michael Moning through Blanchimont, and through it was through a Radeon, wasn't it, between those two cars, where Michael Moning was sent off there. Valentin Barrier had a separate incident. I do believe there's Timo Karppinen emerging out of the pits as Sasha Vassar and quite possibly Nuremberg, although he does have that 15-second time penalty. Not sure how much he will fight this one. The answer is enough with the overspeed. So Karppinen drops down to P16 overall, but a big penalty there for Marco Bischoff. Try-through penalty around here is pretty damaging, to say the least. 5-second time penalty for number 31 car, as that belongs to Panafurov. So despite that fight with Sam Gaskell, that will be somewhat to no avail. Then we have a 15-second time penalty for Nuremberger. That was for causing a collision. And then we've got a couple more investigations going on at the moment, but with potentially some very hefty penalties on the way for certain cars if they do come through. We'll have to wait and see how this race proceeds. Number 26 was Samir Foch. Thank you very much. And then Aiden has a 5-second time penalty as well. So frustrating stuff there for him. Meanwhile, as Sakari Leighton comes into the pits from the overcut of a century, as we start to enter the final third of this race, and it is Menard that leads by 0.7 seconds over Nicholas Huben. Stubenrauch just under 2 seconds behind. I tell you what, though, on the last lap of the race, Stubenrauch was pretty handy indeed. We'll have to see what they are like this time around. I think, in actual fact, they are going to be pretty much, in terms of pace order, yeah, they're extremely close on pace between those three cars. And George Boothby not gaining on those fresh tyres as of yet either. Alexander and Tobias Grunewald scrapping for position in P6. There is Layton starting to drop down the order. We'll have to see where he emerges. There's some scrapping going on between Campanella and Aidan Walsingham. Of course, Walsingham with that 5-second time penalty may not fight this one all too much. He's got Florian Duakop in his rear view mirror as well. So this could get very, very interesting, amongst the whole field. Nicholas Huben has not let go of the back of Philip Menard. Alexander trying to reel in George Boothby, who got past the two cars of Gronewald and Alexander on that overcut strategy. There's a little bit of bumping once again. Oh, I thought Walsingham might not fight it too hard. I was clearly wrong about that one. Around the outside, he will look to go. A bit of a squeeze on the exit of Lake Com. How does Florian Duakop tackle this? Can he heavy over and under? Can't make it to the inside line. Campanella will have that one covered off as they head in towards the next turn, and the Honda unable to go around the outside of the Lamborghini. Lamborghini does tend to be very good in terms of low speed mechanical grip. Great rotation on board that mid-engine platform. Sometimes rotates a little bit too much for his own good, but a corner like that, it does pay off. Meanwhile, speaking of payoff, Nicholas Huben is he's looking comfortable behind Philip Menard at the moment, and that is comfortable even in the middle sector, where the dirty air does sometimes start to play a little bit of havoc for certain cars. But Huben, not particularly phased right now. He should gain a good couple of tenths in the slipstream here, so maybe by the time they get to the start-finish straight, out of last source, Eau Rouge, Randy on the Kemmel Straight, could well be an opportunity for this car to make a move. 410, so the Mustang of Philip Menard is holding station. So really, he needs to be within kind of about like that 0.3 of a second margin for the slipstream to really start gaining, and that is exactly what he's just done. Along with that, the fastest lap of the race, a 2:15.972. That's the only 2:15 that we have seen so far this race. Out of turn one they go then. 0.4 of a second is the gap the Mustang will start to pull on the run up towards Eau Rouge. It briefly goes to half a second. It will continue to pull a little bit up the hill, I'm sure, as well, because the torque on board that car is just absolutely formidable. Nicholas Huben locked in under the rear wing. He will start to gain, but he's just going to be too far away. He needs to be closer to Philip Menard. Meanwhile, Alexander trying to put some pressure onto George Boothby. Boothby breaking the toe somewhat and not allowing the Scotsman to get alongside. Meanwhile, Grunewald and Del Fanta battling just behind. Stubenrauch, though, is just not holding with those top two. He will be kicking himself. I can only imagine that it was a misstop. I mean, you can see on the pit time, his pit stop time was 2.5 seconds slower than Nicholas Huben and Philip Menard. We also saw Huben gain a little bit on the entry to the pit lane, so I do just wonder if he's just missed his mark, and they've car tends to then hit the floor. They basically falls off the jacks, and unfortunately, that is a very frustrating moment and possibly race-changing moment for Stubenrauch. But he's only 2 seconds behind these cars. It wouldn't take much in the way of battling between these two in order for the fight to be on once again. Huben, he is locked in under the rear wing. The gap now 0.3 of a second. They climb up the hill. He's just starting to gain a little bit here. And as they swing through Blanchimont now, that's where it really starts to go into effect. So yeah, at the 3 to 2/10 of a second margin, that's where it kicks out. The problem is, Aston Martin, not the best in acceleration, but maybe doesn't need to be. Wide line on the entry for Philip Menard. Glued to the gearbox is Nicholas Huben. Trying to find a little bit of clean air. Spot his braking point in towards turn one. Meanwhile, Carpenter sending one from downtown onto Nuremberger, who does have that penalty, so he won't fight it all too much. And that is Carpenter now up into P14. Meanwhile, Nicholas Huben, this is really on now. This is really on. In towards Eau Rouge and Radion. They will look to go Niklas Huben, foot to the floor, pinned to the ground. He will try to time the slipstream as best as he can, but how much grunt has the Mustang got to fend him off? He's still building the speed. The side draft is good, and they're going to be side by side towards Lake On. This is what Stubenrauch needs in order to have a go to come back into the fight for the race lead, and there's contact between the two of them. Niklas Huben sent off the circuit. A bit of contact here. Huben goes into the lead. Is he going to give back the position, or does he feel like he's been forced? Well, this could be an interesting moment of the race. Stubenrauch, 1.5 seconds behind these two now, and they came together. And Niklas Huben will say, well, you know, he was forced off the circuit, but equally at the same time, you know, could you argue that he was ahead into the corner and enough to deserve it? I would look at the replay, but I think it may explode everything. So I'm afraid I won't be taking that gamble. In the meantime, as they're racing on, Philippe Menard, possibly not knowing which way a decision may go on all of that, he'll just be looking to race his way back by Niklas Huben. And all in the meantime, I mean, it's given a second already. That single moment alone gave a second to Justin Stubenrauch. It won't take much more to bring that number 35 car back into the fight for the race win, and he'll be hungry for it. He will be giving it everything that he possibly can. And that little moment there might have just given him that bit of a hope that an opportunity could be on the cards for that pink Mustang. One or two pink Mustangs inside of this top three. You see the margin between the number 7 and the number 8 car. 0.3 of a second once again. Philippe Menard gaining in the braking zone, closing that distance. A better line from the South African this time around. As also Carpenter really on the charge here, might even try to get two cars in a row in the same place, in the same way. Griphack's engineering car, can he get it stopped in time? As Del Fanta says a very competitive lap. He does a 0.915. I think that is 600ths a second faster than Niklas Huben, and only the second car to be in the 215s. And he is very close to back of Tavares Gronewald. So none of these fights that we have seen is going to be over and done with just yet. Apparently, the touch on Huben's car looks to be on the rear quarter panel. So, I mean, we'll have to see what the stewards say. We'll have to see what the stewards say. I don't think anything has been officiated so far. Meanwhile, Philippe Menard not close enough on this occasion to make his way back past Philippe Menard. But Stubenrauch, though, he is maintaining that gap to the cars up ahead. And if there is a stewarding decision to be had, who knows, maybe Stubenrauch will only have one car to deal with in order to try to get the race win. 14 minutes left on the clock. That is about 7 laps to go. And this is why you're glad no steward. You and me both, Grim, indeed. Our wonderful live stewarding team that do an immense amount of work to try to invigilate this action. And Huben has given the place back. Huben has given the place back, so there you go. I don't know if he's been given a whisper from someone else, but Niklas Huben has given the place back indeed, and he goes into P2. Philippe Menard then leads the race. It was looking like he was getting it stopped, and he was as far to the apex as possible. And it was very different. I mean, to me, it certainly looked like the touch came from Menard onto Huben. It was just whether or not, was the touch enough to then warrant Huben taking the position as a result of the contact. I think it's one of those things that would probably go to a kind of a no further action overall, but it was, sometimes is that a case of gaining an unfair advantage just because the other car sort of got it right? It's so tricky, but like I say, this is why you're not a steward. This is why some of us don't like to be stewards. This is why I don't like to be a steward. I just like to rant in the microphone and talk about all the crazy action on track. 30 minutes left to go, and with it, about 7 laps of racing as well. Excuse me, 6 laps of racing as well. And Stubenrauch, he is back in the mix, ready to go, ready to pounce. And also, look at this fight for P4. Boothby ahead of Alexander, Gronewald and Del Fanta. It's almost like the opening stint of the race once again. Also, I can tell you, no further action for the incidents between your race leaders. But it ain't over and done with just yet, because on the chart, Huben trying to go back in towards P1. Always giving a little bit of a bun drop. Interesting stuff from Niklas Huben. So here we've all, though I'm not sure it's actually going to help him in the way he was hoping. So, Nicholas Huben, I think, trying to give the bum draft to Philip Menard, working with Philip here to get a little bit of extra distance between themselves and Justin Stubenrauch, so that when Huben goes for the attack, he doesn't have to be looking in his rear view mirrors quite so much. Problem is that he sends Menard a little bit too far into the corner. The pair of them lost time, and now Stubenrauch is less than half second behind. Sometimes the simpler thing to do is just try to overtake the car in front. The strategy games don't always end up working. Grunewald is like a brick wall for anyone who wants to take his position. He's certainly defending with all of his might, although it's really right now it's actually Jack Alexander that is the cork in the bottle for the two Hondas behind. But here we go, but look at this. Your race leaders, after just under 50 minutes of racing, less than a second between one another. Battle for 5th place. A second between 3 cars there as well. And the last of the top 10, Walsingham, Campanella and Duacop. A second between each of them as well. Incredible stuff to the end scenes of what has been an amazing race. The Case King Pro Series is always putting on an absolutely fantastic show. And Huben now trying to close that distance. Stubenrauch, it doesn't feel like he has that ultimate pace. I tell you what though, Del Fanta is looking quick. This might be a move on to Tobias Grunewald. Can he go around the outside? He's braking immensely late. He might have got the job done. He's got enough of a car up the inside. They swap positions, they tap doors, but it's Del Fanta that goes on through up into P6, and the car that's at the fastest lap of the race so far now has a second between himself and Jack Alexander trying to get into that top 5. Meanwhile, Campanella and Aidan Walsingham as well, scrapping away. They're tagging each other once again. It's not the first time. Florian Duangop watching on with a great deal of interest to see how this plays out. Walsingham trying to go for the over and under on to the Lamborghini, and the Mustang is going to have an immense run on the way through into Eau Rouge. Surely Campanella has to back out of this one, and he does indeed, and Walsingham takes the position. We'll come back to that though in a minute. Nicholas Huben trying to still work with Menard here, and he has opened up that gap to about a second, so he's behind, but Menard not so comfortable through Les Combes, loses a bit of time again. Stubenrauch still not too far away. Grunewald unable to come back. Campanella trying to go the long way around. It's a brave and almighty attempt, but he does run out of room in the end as Duacop tries to get involved as well, but he can't make it stick either. Noah Reeder gains another place. An impressive charge from the Team Nitro car to get into the top 15. He dispatches Nuremberg, of course, Nuremberger with that 15-second time penalty as well. But this fight for the race win, Nicholas Huben looking for his second victory of the season. As meanwhile, Philip Menard, whilst he has won in the past of the Case King Pro Series, that he has not won so far this season. So it could be a 7th different race winner. But if Nicholas Huben were to win today, he would be your first repeat winner of the season and would look to extend that championship lead even further than he is already going to do so. But he's got a very tricky situation to deal with right now. He is in a Mustang sandwich. And whilst this Aston Martin is quick in a race straight line, it is not quite 4 Mustang levels of quick. Sometimes there is only so much you can do against raw out-and-out horsepower. Either pushes hard enough, he can take another position from Aidan. Absolutely in the way that Aidan is battling at the moment. Who knows how that may end up playing out. 8.5 minutes left on the clock then. So 4 laps left to go in this race. Huben very, very close to the rear of Philip Menard, as Stubenrauch not too far behind. Meanwhile, Florian Duacop is now getting properly involved here, and Campanella backs out that one, allows the Honda to go on through, who may immediately go on the charge and on the attack. He's gone for the over and under already on the Mustang of Aidan Walsingham. We'll have to tuck under the rear wing. We'll come back to that one in just a moment, because here's Nicholas Huben once again. And he's just pushing the Mustang along. Just pushing the Mustang along. Is he going to try to save this for the final lap? You'd have to think that he tried to size up a move earlier. He was holding on to that place previously. Now, Menard was not able to come back at him. Meanwhile, look at all this. Florian Duacop going around the outside of Campanella once again. Carpenter bum drafting his way through as Mr. Carpenter trying to sneak out the inside. It's a good recovery from the Bentley driver. who is now just about a second away from 10th place, which considering his tumble down the order is very impressive. Look at this though. Stuart Roush is firmly in the mix of this fight. And Nicholas Huben, he can't hang around, surely. I mean, I know that his straight line speed is good. He's holding on well, but the double slipstream for Stuart Roush, he wants this race win. He took an incredible pole position. He lost out in the pit stops by going a little bit cautious into the pit entry, a little bit deep in his pit box, lost time, lost the race lead there, and he now finds himself on for what would be, I think, a maiden visit to the podium. But I told you, if you come away with a lap like that, you want more. Now, Philip Menard will be loving what he is seeing right now, but Nicholas Huben, he'll be starting to get a little bit wary. How does Stuart Roush play this? Does he even try to help Huben go side by side with Philip Menard and then open up the opportunities for himself? Or does he send it up the inside? Oh, there's contact! There's contact into the bus stop! And Stuart Roush is going to go back into the lead! A half spin for Philip Menard! Drama with a few laps here to go at Spa-Francorchamps. And Stuart Roush, after looking like it may have all been over, may have just been given the ticket back to that top spot on the podium that he so desperately wants to come away with. Philip Menard and Huben continue on. The pressure from Stuart Roush. Huben just a little bit deep on the braking zone, tagging the back of Menard, and it's Stuart Roush back into the lead, but he's going to be under pressure. We know that the pace is generally in favour of the two cars behind him, but if you want a bit of motivation, I'll tell you what, that's going to be the one that's sparking the heart rate for the German driver. Now, Huben, he sets his attention onto Philip Menard. What does he do? Does he look to just push on? Or does he try to help Philip Menard open up the opportunity for the race lead once again? They will continue on, but Stuart Roush into the lead in the final moments of his race. He's just got about 3 laps left to go. Delfanta, Gronewald, Alexander still scrapping away. Boothby having broken away from this trio. He's only 2 seconds away from your top 3. Who knows with the way that things are going? Could we even see Boothby make his way to the podium at the very end of the race? And Nicholas Huben has a 5-second time penalty for that contact with Philip Menard. So Huben's done. Huben's chance of a race win is done. Now it's the case. Surely he doesn't help Menard try to win the race here, because that is a championship contender. So Stuart Roush, it really looks like it would just be a duel, theoretically, between himself and Philip Menard. But that is a 5-second time penalty for Nicholas Huben. And I can tell you the reason why it will be is because of losing that position. If it had just been the half spin, and if it just ended at that it probably would have gone to no further action. But the fact that it cost the Mustang... Oh my goodness, Stuart Roush flying off the circuit! You cannot predict this race even for a second. Stuart Roush got that completely wrong through a double right-hander, and now Philip Menard back straight under the gearbox of the number 35 Mustang. Nicholas Huben watching with a great deal of interest, and now in towards the bus stop chicane. And we say a wheel dead again. I don't know if that's an issue that Stuart Roush has had in the past. I hope that's not what he's suffering with right now. If it was, thankfully it came to life. Meanwhile, look at this. Boothby, he's there. He's 1.5 seconds behind this group. He's got fresher tyres than the entirety of them as well. He's gaining 0.8 of a second per lap. But now, Stuart Roush, now this is a tough position. The margin was a lot better than this. About a sector or so ago, you can see squealing the rear tyres out of the source, trying to get that Mustang power down. But the problem is he's got another Mustang behind, and Philip Menard, he was in the lead for so long in the second stint, now is pushing on to try to reclaim it, and he is gaining. He is gaining a lot of time in the slipstream. Campanella, Duicott, Walsingham also scrapping away further down the order. Stuart Roush defends to the inside line. Philip Menard trying to go to the outside. Who's going to come out on top of this fight? Stuart Roush is going to fight tooth and nail for this one, and he covered it off beautifully. Nicholas Huben scrapping away with these guys. Well, Boothby lurking all the more in the rearview mirrors of his trio as well. And Stuart Roush has held on, but he's got 2 more times. But he's got to put all of these positions together. As meanwhile, Walsingham, Campanella, Duicott and Carbonell. Oh, is this contact again? A slide from the Lamborghini. Oh, Carbonell almost into the wall with a side swipe from the Honda. I don't think that was intentional. That was just the lines that they ended up converging on. But his elbows out everywhere in this field. We'll try to keep up with all of the action. But it's incredible scenes here at Spa-Francorchamps for the 7th round of the season. Jack Alexander, Delfanta, Gronewald all battling away as well. But Philip Menard, look at George Boothby. He's only a second away from Nicholas Huben. We've got 2 more laps left of this. Do not count him out, because who knows what sort of fireworks the Pro Series can put on. Who are your bets on? Who's going to come away with victory in the 7th round of the season? Because it could go in absolutely any direction right now. 2 minutes left on the clock. 2 laps left to go. Excuse me, no, this will be the final lap. Excuse me, my time. I've got so involved in all the action, I can't do maths anymore. This will be the final lap that they go on to. And Stubenrauch right now has an 8 tenths of a second advantage. We've got votes for Michael Moning for victory as well. I'm no statistician, but I must admit, I'm questioning the odds just a smidge. But Stubenrauch then goes on to the final lap of the race in the lead with a 7/10 advantage over Philip Manard. Has to go through La Source one final time. Carpenter and Duacop scrapping away in the background. It was elbows out a lap ago, and it's elbows out once again in towards La Source. And then closing the distance towards those in front. We'll look at each of these drag races though, but the gap between Stubenrauch and Philip Manard is pretty substantial. In actual fact, Nicholas Huben could be the one that's looking a bit more racy as they climb up the hill. Manard will gain in the slipstream of Stubenrauch, but that's an insurmountable distance on this straight, and so he will have to wait for another opportunity if he's going to go for it. Nicholas Huben won't fight away. He's got the penalty. There's no point in him doing it. Delfanta trying to hold on around the outside of Tobias Gronewald, and I think he will. They almost touch, but they just about survive. Campanella can't reclaim anything off Walsingham. As Leon Burns, I think, has had an issue. He has. I think he's kept it out of the wall on the final lap of the race. Carpenter scrapping away with Florian Duacop. But he's got it all wrong in terms of the line through there. They continue on as they are. Boothby now within a second, now within half a second of Nicholas Huben. Who knows? Well, I mean, the podium's already actually going to Boothby anyway. I completely forgotten about the penalty for Huben in the context of George Boothby. So Boothby will recover up to a podium position. And Huben, your championship leader, is going to be losing some valuable points in this race because he's going to drop behind Alexander, Delfanta, Gronewald, maybe even Korekas as well. Very, very close, but he will be losing valuable points. But meanwhile, Stubenrauch, he rounds his way through turn 15 for the final time. He had a moment here, just a couple laps left to go. And after what has been an incredibly topsy-turvy race, he put an absolutely mind-blowing pole position lap together that absolutely shocked the timing sheets. He commanded the opening stint of the race, but it all looked like it went wrong and into jeopardy when he got the stop wrong. But he was given a gift from Nicholas Huben, who tagged Philip Manard out the way, and he kept his head where no one else did, and Justin Stubenrauch will win here at Spa-Francorchamps in incredible fashion. Philip Manard takes P2 with Boothby on the podium after that penalty from what will be a disappointing Nicholas Huben. Carpenter and Florian Duacop are going to scrap away all the way to the line. It's the German driver that will hang on to it to P12 in the end. The Bentley recovers to 13th position. The fights continue further down the order with Sam Gaskell in P16, just 0.3 of a second behind Noah Reeder. Lomi, Lawrence and Anderson fighting away all the way until the final apex. Around the outside, the Bentley will try to go. He might even make it stick. They're tagging the doors side by side. Anderson will finish in 25th. Lawrence with the power down in the Boatley will get the better of the Aston Martin. And out of all of your scraps in the field, that'll be the last of your major fights. But what a race at Spa-Francorchamps. But what a race for Justin Stubenrauch. He will be absolutely overjoyed. Visceral Esports will be absolutely overjoyed with that one as well. It looks like it was game over after the pit stop. It looks like it was a margin that he may not be able to reclaim. But he was there when it mattered. And he got the job done. An absolutely incredible, incredible finish. Apparently, the margin for Korekas at the end just missing out on claiming a position from Nicholas Huben, who was just a little bit too far away. Pranav getting absolutely swatted by Nightbot at the moment, but an understandably overjoyed team manager over at Visceral Esports. Happy days for that man. Happy days for Stubenrauch as well. And understandably why, because what an incredible race he has put together, and managing to convert it from pole position an incredible pole position, a dramatic race, and then bringing it home in the end. Hopefully, he will bless us with an interview, and we will talk to him very, very soon, because what a race. What an absolute blinder of a race indeed. And Nightbot doesn't like... Nightbot loves everybody, but he just shows love in a very odd way. He doesn't like happiness. It seems to be the way that he operates as we look towards our interview room. And we do have all of our podium finishers in here, and we will look to bring them in just a second. And what's an absolutely incredible evening of action. We will bring in the man that finished on the third step of the podium today, George Boothby, recovering up to an admiral podium, gifted a little bit with Huber's penalty at the end, although it looks, to be honest, like with those fresher tyres, you could have maybe had a crack at taking it on track, George, into the chicane, because he was very, very close at the end. A podium, solid points for the championship, gaining a bit on Nicholas as well. Oh, so important. How are you feeling after that one? Well, I guess we'll never know. I don't know why I can't hit.
I was muted. It's like technical difficulties there, but...
It's okay. Here in the comms box, we've had our fair share over the last few weeks, so you are more than forgiven, George. How are you feeling after that one, buddy?
Yeah, I'm feeling great because, yeah, qualifying. I don't know what it is about me this season, but I'm just keep choking in the quali. So, yeah, a lot of work to do. And I was using a bit of a different setup to like all the other guys. I was running like a higher wing, which meant I was slower on the straights. So overtaking was a little bit tougher, but managed to get it done. I had a rough lap one, but kept, I guess, where I started. I think it was P7. I managed to recover back to there, and then a few overtakes in stint one, and then I just got stuck behind, I think it was Gromwald and Alexander, and they were just like making mistakes and doing half sends, and it was just, I don't know, we just lost so much time to the lead, unfortunately. I think that's what lost me the chance of going for a win, because that second stint was just insane. Like, the pace was there, the overcut worked, but a podium's still great, you know. It's a really good result.
Yeah, absolutely. It must have been, so especially with the fireworks that we had going on in the lead positions. I imagine it was so frustrating seeing those cars getting ever closer, but just seeing the clock tick down. I bet you wish that the 90 minutes probably was this week rather than last week. Could have been a very different story. But yeah, absolutely crucial points for the championship. And of course, with Huben's penalty in the closing stage as well, that helps regain some valuable points in the championship standings. So an incredible results for the championship campaign. And, you know, just talk us through, you know, lap one. Like you say, you had a difficult lap one. How chaotic and tricky is it to negotiate here at Spa? Because it's always a mad one, no matter whereabouts you start in the grid.
Yeah, it sort of depends on your run through Eau Rouge. So if you start at the front, you can just send it. But if you start anywhere other than the front, you sort of locked into what the car in front does. And that's what lost me out, because the car in front lifted a bit to be safe. I then had to lift, but the left side didn't lift. So then my teammate Aiden just sent it around the outside and got like an easy overtake on me. So I'd rather that than crash and die, you know? But yeah, you're sort of at the mercy of the cars around you a little bit, and just hope that you're on the good side, or the side where everyone's sending it in the bump draft or something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's you know, very small, you know, very minor changes in decision can sometimes have a rather race-changing result depending on how it goes, especially at a circuit like Spa. But yeah, absolutely. You survive the opening lap, you use that pace in the second stint, and manage to climb your way to a very valuable podium. So important points indeed. Paul Ricard, next up on the calendar. I can imagine that possibly being a good one for the Mustang. An incredibly long back straight that I'm sure will give us some incredible racing, much like Spa has done so again. Any ideas, thoughts, or feelings for that one?
I always sort of struggled at Paul Ricard, and I don't really like the track too well with like the layout. I kind of wish it had those chicanes, to be honest. But it always does make for really good racing. And I mean, last season in SRO, I managed to get my only pole position in SRO there. So, you know, when I'm on it, I'm on it. But I don't know. So far this championship, I have just struggled in quali so much. So You know what? We're gonna turn it around. Next week, we're gonna send it. You'll see us at the top. I'm hoping.
That's what I like to hear. I like the confidence that's yeah, bringing it to the competition because yeah, your first win of the season still unusually eluding you, but championship campaign and fight firmly on as ever. So that's the important thing at the end of the day. And yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll turn around that winless streak so far at the 8th round of the season. George, congratulations on a great charge up to a podium today at Spa, and look forward to seeing how you get on next week at Paul Ricard.
Thank you very much. Cheers, man. Take care.
Take care, George. Great stuff to talk to. A rather happy man in the comms box. Managed to convert that second stint into a competitive charge up into the podium positions. But a man that I'm sure is feeling a mixture of emotions after that race. Philip Manar. A challenging opening stint hunting down Justin at the front, and then after the pit stops, it all looked like it was coming together, but unfortunately what came together a little bit too close was yourself and Nicholas in the closing stages of the race, and after a valiant effort to reclaim the race win, it was a P2 finish for yourself. Still amazing points overall and great for your championship campaign because it is very close at the top of the pack, but tell us a little bit how you are feeling after that one.
I think mixed is the perfect word because at the same time, obviously I've lost the win. You know, it would have been the first win I think for me in Pro Series.
I think you've won in the Pro Series previously, but it would have been your first one this season.
But relieved because I saw my ping spiked. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's right. Sorry. I think we lost you for a second. We got you back there, Philip.
Yeah, what I was saying was, yes, it's good for the championship, but at the same time, you know, like, it sucks being second because, you know, it's right behind the lead and it's so close. But at the same time, I've got to say huge congrats to Justin. He's been on fire in qualifying and practice and everything regarding the Mustang. He's so good in the Mustang. Like, and I've been practicing with him this whole week. And he's definitely someone to look out for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the wonderful statistician Kylo has confirmed for me in the chat, yeah, and actually I was unaware. I personally thought that you had a race win in the Pro Series already, but yes, you are absolutely right. Of course, should trust your opinion on that statistic for him more than any. So yeah, of course, having that maiden victory slip away in the final moments, yeah, oh so infuriating. But I think you have to be incredibly proud and commended for at least kind of regaining, your head, retaining focus in that closing stint and trying to push on towards Justin. But yeah, he was just a little bit too quick at the end. And of course, Mustang v Mustang, it's a tricky thing to then try to close in on that fight. Spa may have not reaped the rewards that you would have necessarily wanted, but like I say, it's great points for the championship, and heading over to Paul Ricard for next week, it's potentially another circuit where the Mustang could perform well. Long straights for that circuit as well, that layout where you can likely will build up quite the bit of momentum over some other cars. Trying to at least take this as good positive momentum into next round. Thoughts, feelings for the 8th round of the season?
I've lapped Paul Ricard to death, and I know the Mustang is strong there, and it's such an easy car. It's very similar to the BMW, so it's extremely easy through Cygnus, and obviously has that insane straight line speed. So I guess I have that one redeeming feature, but at the same time, the tire wear has been shocking in this car, especially in high temperatures like today. But yeah, we'll see. Anything that happened like today, like I was sitting in Woodshed with Justin and everyone else and Jack, and we were sitting, and I thought I'd be 1 or P2 with Toby, and then all of a sudden Justin's full. So like it kind of shows where the season's going, the trajectory. So anything can happen, So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that race just absolutely had it all in terms of, I think showcasing what the Pro Series delivers best, and that is just, high adrenaline action all the way throughout the entire race, and you just can't you can't come to an early conclusion at any point because, you know, anything can happen. But like you say, you know, there are positives to take away from today and a lot of promise heading into the next round of the season. So I know that you'll be, like I say, mixed feeling, disappointment, of course, to not come away with your first win in the Case King Pro Series, but you still have an immense amount to be proud of today, Philip. And for Ricard, maybe that'll be a little bit different for you and you can go one better. So thank you so much for coming for an interview. Big congratulations on the podium and absolute best of luck, Philip, for next week at Paul Ricard.
Thanks, cheers.
Take care, Philip. Of course, Philip frustrated there in the end of that race to miss out on his maiden race win. I really thought he had come away with a race win in the past. He's definitely been at the point at the end on more than one occasion, but yeah, apparently no wins for the South African driver, so understandably even more frustrated in the cockpit of that Mustang. But a man that was joined him in the voice chat and will now be joining us here in the comms box. I imagine a heart rate that is through the roof and a grin and smile that is beaming from ear to ear. Justin Stewart Rauch, an immense congratulations to you, sir. First of all, after what was a stellar qualifying lap from you at the closing stages or qualifying, the lap time just kept on coming. And then the race. What a mix and dynamic back and forth race you had, but the seas parted for you in the final few laps, and then you kept it all calm and collected in the end to come home with your first win in the Case King Pro Series. How are you feeling after that incredible victory?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I still can't really believe that I still had the chance to win after I missed my pit box. But I feel absolutely ecstatic to finally have gotten something done.
I could imagine, yeah. It was when when each of you started to emerge out of the pits and was trying to judge kind of how would the undercut work for Philip, and and I thought that he jumped both you and Nicholas at the same time because I saw that you had fallen back, and then I realised about a slow pit stop, and it was such a gut wrenching feeling because you controlled the first stint so well, and the pace was quite clearly there. And then it's such an easy mistake to make though in that scenario. But yeah, you kept it together. You saw the fireworks ahead, and what was going through your head in those moments as you were closing the distance through Blanchimont? You could see Hooban kind of hunting around the back of Philip. Did you think he was going to head that way, or was it just kind of you found that you sort of waltzed yourself into that position and couldn't quite believe how you'd found yourself there?
Yeah, first I wanted to obviously capitalize on both of them battling, maybe get a switchback and get one of them. And then I saw Hume not going for the inside, and I thought, yeah, well, he's braking so early, I'm going for it. Then I just released the brake a bit, went to the inside and saw he hit Philip, and then I just fully sent it to the apex, tried not to collect Philip, and all of a sudden I was P1, and I thought the race that was lost already was in my hands. And from then on, I was just even more nervous to not bottle it again.
I can imagine, yeah. I can imagine the steering wheel was being gripped ever more tightly as the apexes were ticking down to the end of that race. Because on the penultimate lap, that was really kind of Philip's final charge up towards Lake Om, and you defended it so perfectly. How confident were you that you were going to be able to hold that position and timing the way that that you're squeezing Philip in the middle of the corner, but not doing it overly aggressively, overly harshly. Also being mindful not to create contacts. How once you secured that, then how confident were you that you could this was game on now, that you really could win this race with one lap to go?
I think after we battled into Le Comp, I saw that some sort of gap was forming, like 0.5 or 0.6, and then I knew if I just keep the exits clean onto the straights and don't do any major mistakes, I can hold them off, because the Mustang's just not as good in straight line against another Mustang. And yeah, then I basically just drove, and all of a sudden the race ended.
I imagine somewhat to your relief with the heart rate going up in that. I do have to ask you about one interesting moment, because I know obviously, like you say, you had the pit stop, the slow pit stop, which very nearly ended up losing you the race with. There was one other moment though, and it was a peculiar one and a scary one for us to see in the comms box. Down at the bottom of the hill with a couple of laps to go, that kind of allowed Philip and Nicholas to close the gap again. You went extremely wide through the exit of the double right-hander. Someone in the chat mentioned that maybe there was something hardware related on that front, or what took place inside the cockpit there?
Yeah, thankfully nothing hardware related this time. I just overcooked my rears on the first stint and also a bit on the second stint. And running this slow wing setup on Mustang, it kind of gets sketchy when your rears are done. And in stint 1 it was just sometimes not holdable around the corner, then I just thought, yeah, okay, floor it.
I must admit, I did see a couple of exits out of La Source that were slightly Tokyo Drift style, so I think that goes hand in hand with that side there. That would figure. Well, you managed to keep it all under control in the end after such a busy time in the cockpit for you. But yes, an incredible job throughout the entire evening to come away from with your maiden victory in the Case King Pro Series. One to be extremely proud of. Now, of course, I want you to relish and enjoy this moment over the rest of the evening and the upcoming days, but I do want to cast your mind a week from now to Paul Ricard. With this momentum, you know, Philip was talking incredibly positively as well about how you were going from strength to strength as well, with a pole position, a win, a spring in your step now on the back of that. Can we expect a repeat performance at Paul Ricard? What's the feeling there?
Well, I don't know if Paul Ricard is really my track, but I'll give it my best to get a good result again. And I will be happy without a win anyway. If I just keep doing my best in the next rounds, that's good for me.
Absolutely. Well, that is all you could ever deliver. And as it clearly has shown tonight, that when it's all come together and been hooked up for you, Justin, that you have been incredible, both in qualifying, a stunning lap at the end of that session, and in the race as well. An amazing evening from you, Justin. A huge congratulations. The chat was over the moon as well. Pranav was jumping for joy. He got banned by Nightbot on about 3 occasions, I think, from speaking because he was talking in so many capitals in the chat. Nightbot, he was also cheering for you. He just has a funny way of showing it. An immense result. So much delight for everyone watching, and yeah, one to be extremely proud of. So thank you so much for coming in for an interview. Congratulations on this evening, and look forward to seeing how you get on with Paul Ricard next week, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. And danke, Pran.
Take care, Justin.
You take care too.
It's, now, I haven't brushed up on my German for a while. I know the first part was thank you. I can't actually quite work out the second part, but I know it was lovely anyway. An incredible evening of action from these guys. Just absolutely immense. And Nightbot already striking down once again. He has been on an absolute tear this evening. Nightbot has really been on one. But like I say, he does try his best, honestly. He just has a funny way of showing it, but I'm sure the Nightbot enjoyed the incredible action just as much as we did this evening. It was just absolutely immense from these guys, but the race results are in then on Justin's incredible race victory ahead of Philip Menard and George Boothby. Alexander Delfanta Grunewald Correcas did by 0.4 of a second get ahead of Huben in the end, with Whitehead and Campanella rounding out the top 10. Duacop, Carpenter, Vastner, Ida and Gaskell seeing you to the end of the top 15. With Panafurov, Walsingham, Frey, Rainier, Gamble, Burns, Nuremberger, Kolosov, Addison, Lawrence, Lomi, Kufel, Schranker, and Steyer to the end of the top 30. And then for your final drives in the field, I think your final finishes, Leighton, Charlotte, Steinbrenner, and Barry, I think, did continue on to the end. And then your DNS, Marco Bischoff, Max Meinecker, Michael Moaning, frustration for him, Sammy Fosh, and Lorenzo Mugnani from the grid. So a mix of fortune for some of the fan favourites from the field tonight. But I think everyone got to the end of that race with a beaming smile smile on their face. A huge result for Justin Stuber-Rauch to come away with that one, and whilst it did sort of come his way with that contact with Niklas Huben and Philip Menard in the end, he played it absolutely perfectly and kept his cool and brought it home. An incredible evening of action from him. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, based on Kyle's feedback, the championship standings have been updated, and I can tell you it's heating up as we head in towards the tail end of the season. There is only 26 points between Niklas Huben and George Boothby. Bear in mind, two things about that score. One, these guys have scored over 6,500 points. 26 points separating them is very small, and this dynamic between them can change very quickly. Point number two, Niklas Huben already has a 0 score, no show to his next, so he's effectively used one of his drop scores of the season. That in itself could be pivotal later on in the championship, as that can have a big effect. Same also with Michael Moning now having got drop scores with 0 scores both in round 1 and today. That may end up making his life in 10 of the season a bit more complicated. But the points, the top 10 are separated by about 600 points, which is just absolutely incredible in terms of the closeness of this championship. It's definitely game on between Huben and Boothby for P1. Delfanta and Menard very close together for the third spot in the standings as well. So for those positions, for those incredible, wonderful prizes that are up for grabs, the battles are on as much as ever. And heading to Paul Ricard next week, I am sure is going to deliver the action in glorious bucket loads that we all know and love. It is going to be an amazing one for sure, I have no doubt. But that is going to be it for this evening. Thank you very so much for watching and for all of your incredible support. Tonight we did hit that milestone over 3,850 followers, and also a big thank you once again to those that have subscribed to the channel. If you have enjoyed the action for tonight, do consider giving us a follow and stay in touch with everything we've got ahead for the rest of the season. And if you do want to show a little bit of extra generosity to the hidden heroes that make all of this possible, do consider subscribing to the channel as well. It does all very much help, and a big thank you to those of you that do that, but also just an amazing big thank you to all of you joining this community and showing your support week in, week out. If you fancy having a go behind the wheel yourself after seeing the action these guys have been getting up to, you can head over to the lowfuelmotorsport.com website. You get yourself a license and sign up your way through the ranks of racing in the LFM system and gain ELO, work your way up towards some dizzying heights of competition, and you can get some fantastic prizes across a range of different categories. There's, of course, the Pro Series, Daily Racing, Endurance, Duo Cup, all sorts that you can find on there. So much to get stuck into. And if ACC isn't quite your cup of tea, you can head over to the OG of Assetto Corsa 1. So much fun stuff to get stuck into there as well and to join in with. And if you fancy a little bit of off-road, voluntary off-roading, maybe not quite like the shenanigans that we saw from Stuber-Rauch and some of our other competitors tonight in this race, then you can also join the WRC Cup as well on the LFM platform, which is always good fun indeed. And if you just want to be a part of this ever-growing amazing community, you can also join the Discord server, as you will be welcomed in with open arms. Enjoy all things sim racing, real racing, and share pictures of your dogs, your cats, make some good friends, you name it. And it's a wonderful group of wonderful people, and you will be welcome to join. What is the dizzying numbers of how many of you do we have in this absolutely incredible niche and hobby that we have now? Almost 190,000 of you, which is just absolutely exceptional, and that number is growing by the day. But after an incredible evening of action here at Spa-Francorchamps, Justin Stuber-Rauch, he rose to the top in qualifying, and he did it once again in tricky and amazing circumstances after a chaotic race to take his maiden victory as well. 7 winners, 7 different winners in 7 races. Only 5 more to go for this incredible season, and I cannot wait to see what Paul Ricard brings next week. So do not miss it. Catch up with all the action over on the YouTube channel as well, and subscribe over there if you haven't done so already. But thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And for tonight, then, it's goodbye.